You've mastered control, you've silenced your chaos. But now, nothing moves you anymore. When did strength start to feel like death? You wake up with no tremor in your hands, no racing in your chest. The storms that once tore through your mind now pass in silence. You've won, you are calm, you are untouchable, and yet you feel a quiet mourning for the part of you that used to care. This is the phase they never warn you about, the afterlife of control. You don't rage anymore, but you don't laugh either. You've turned your pain into discipline, but discipline has turned into distance. There was a time when victory felt electric, when proving them wrong set your blood on fire. Now it's just another day, another move in a game you've already mastered. You are not tired, you are just done feeling. Power begins with detachment, the act of killing your own softness to survive a world that rewards coldness. You cut off the parts of yourself that begged, that hoped, that needed. You learned to look at people not as comfort, but as variables. You trained your face to reveal nothing. You watched as your silence began to terrify others. It worked. It always works. The emotionless are feared, and the feared are obeyed. But what no one tells you is what comes after. After you've killed the weakness, what remains to live for? When no insult can sting you, when no praise can lift you, what then? You become a statue carved by your own precision, unmoved, perfect, empty. Victories lose their taste. Revenge feels hollow. Even peace feels like absence. You tell yourself this is maturity, but in truth, it is mourning. The death of chaos has also buried your joy. This is not depression. This is the consequence of mastery. You have conquered the battlefield of emotion, and in doing so, you silenced the music that once made you human. You did what you had to. The world doesn't reward purity, it rewards results. It celebrates those who move like ghosts, efficient, unseen, impossible to wound. You learned that the kind are consumed, and the calm are crowned. But as your crown grew heavier, something inside you began to dim. There was once a heartbeat in your ambition, a warmth that made the struggle worth it. But you replaced it with calculation. Every smile became strategy. Every silence became armor. And soon, even your reflection stopped looking familiar. You built a kingdom of composure, only to realize the walls are soundproof. No noise gets in, no life gets out. You have not fallen. You have ascended into isolation. Still, there is beauty in this death. The beauty of knowing you cannot be destroyed the way others can. Pain visits them like a thief in the night. It no longer finds you. You've become untouchable, a ghost walking through fire without burning. That is power, but it is also exile, the exile of emotion, where even love must knock before it enters. Machiavelli would call this the necessary cruelty of survival. The ruler must learn to betray before he is betrayed, to detach before he is broken. And yet, he would also whisper, control is a blade that cuts both ways. Use it too long and you begin to bleed on the inside. You have mastered survival so completely that you no longer remember what living feels like. You confuse stillness for serenity, numbness for peace, detachment for strength. But strength that never bends becomes brittle. The death of emotion is a rite of passage for the powerful. Every empire, visible or unseen, is built on someone's decision to stop feeling, to turn heartbreak into policy, to turn pain into productivity. You did not become this cold by accident. The world demanded it of you. You were betrayed enough times to stop trusting, mocked enough times to stop caring, used enough times to stop giving. And now you sit in silence, powerful but unfulfilled, wondering where the warmth went. The warmth didn't die. You buried it. You buried it under years of ambition, silence, and late-night victories that no one celebrated with you. You told yourself emotion was weakness, and so you buried the most alive part of you. You were right to do it. The world would have used your heart as leverage, but now you must face the cost. The man who cannot be hurt cannot be moved, and the one who cannot be moved cannot grow. You begin to realize that your strength has turned against you. You're not haunted by enemies anymore. You're haunted by emptiness. The applause doesn't echo because no one's left to hear it. You've learned to walk through betrayal without blinking, but now you walk through love the same way, cold, careful, suspicious. You wanted freedom. What you got was distance. There's a strange beauty in this quiet death. It's the beauty of total control, of mastering yourself so deeply that no one can touch your peace. But it's also the beauty of a winter landscape, elegant, serene, lifeless. You stare at the empire you've built and feel both pride and pity. You've become everything you once admired, strong, disciplined, detached. But you've also become what you once feared, unreachable. And so, you start asking the forbidden question, did I go too far? Is power worth this silence? You won the war within, but there's no one left to celebrate with. You stopped needing others, and now no one needs you. You're not broken, you're preserved, like a relic behind glass. People look at you with respect, but never with warmth. They see composure, not connection. They see strength, not soul. This is the beautiful death, the phase where power becomes prison. You have everything you once wanted, but you can no longer feel its weight. It's not that you're empty, it's that you've become too full of control. It spills into every breath, every pause, every choice. You monitor your emotions the way kings guard gold. But what use is gold if you never spend it? You must remember, control was the means, not the end. It was the sword meant to protect your throne, not replace your heart. Yet here you are, alive but absent, mastering every storm except the one called loneliness. You conquered the chaos outside and killed the chaos within. But you forgot that chaos was life itself, unrefined, unpredictable, alive. Perhaps this is the final test, to stand before your own emptiness and not turn away, to see that even the most disciplined soul still hungers for something raw, to admit that power without passion is architecture without music, impressive but silent. You have not failed. You have completed the first half of the journey, the half where emotion dies, the half where power is born. And somewhere deep within that silence, something stirs. The faint memory of warmth, not as weakness but as fuel. A whisper that says, you haven't lost yourself, you've just gone quiet. This is the beautiful death of emotion, the quiet before the resurrection, the stillness before the fire returns. For now, rest in the silence you've earned. Let the emptiness echo. You are not broken, you are becoming. You reached control, but at what cost? You've built the kingdom, you've established order within yourself. Nothing penetrates, nothing shakes you. You have learned to rule every feeling, every reaction, every thought. But now, in the quiet corridors of your own mind, you hear the echo of something you never planned for, silence. Not peace, silence. There was a time when every step forward felt like victory. When you built something, it mattered. When someone doubted you, it fueled you. You were fire in motion, untamed, alive. But power, over time, refines fire into stone. And now you sit on your throne, still and composed, looking out at everything you've conquered, and realizing there's no one left to share it with. You've trained yourself to never need anyone, and now no one can reach you. This is the hidden tragedy of emotional dominance. The armor that once protected you has hardened into a cage. You don't get hurt anymore, but you also don't get touched. Every smile feels rehearsed. Every moment of joy feels distant, like a memory that doesn't belong to you anymore. You've become the observer of your own life, detached, strategic, precise. You are the king of your mind, but the prisoner of your heart. There's a cold glory to it. You command respect effortlessly. People sense something untouchable about you, the way you move, the way you speak, the way your eyes don't flinch. You've become the embodiment of control. They fear disappointing you because they can't read you. They admire your silence because it makes them question their own noise. To them, you are strength. To yourself, you are a statue learning to breathe. Machiavelli would whisper, "A ruler must master emotion, but never lose it completely. For without emotion, he no longer rules himself." He knew that the same steel that shields the heart can one day pierce it. The ruler who commands others but cannot command his own emptiness has already lost the invisible war. You see, you've learned to rule the outer world, but the inner kingdom has gone dark. This is the hollow throne, when victory becomes a vacuum. You have everything that power promised, but nothing that fulfillment requires. You can summon loyalty, yet you cannot summon warmth. You can win wars, but you can't win connection. You can inspire devotion, but you can't feel it. This is what the masters of control never speak of, the loneliness that comes with perfection. It begins subtly. You stop laughing from your chest. You stop missing people. You stop imagining futures that include anyone else. You don't reject love. You simply stop believing it can coexist with strength. You watch others lose themselves to emotion, and you feel both pity and envy. Pity for their chaos, envy for their aliveness. You forget that emotion was never the enemy, only lack of discipline was. You became the god of restraint, but in doing so, you killed the worshipper inside you. You built a temple to silence, and now you kneel before it, wondering when reverence became mourning. This is the paradox of power. The higher you ascend, the less air there is to breathe. The more control you have, the less connection you can feel. You are surrounded by people, but untouched by them. They praise your composure, not realizing it's your funeral mask. They call you wise because you no longer argue. They call you mysterious because you no longer explain. But it's not mystery, it's fatigue. The fatigue of having to be strong for so long that vulnerability feels like a foreign language. You've forgotten how to speak it, and those who once understood you have gone quiet because you trained them to. They stopped asking what you feel because you stopped showing it mattered. You gave them efficiency instead of empathy, results instead of warmth. You became the perfect ruler, predictable, composed and safe from chaos. But safety is sterile. The hollow throne is not built from malice. It's built from self-preservation. You wanted peace, but you built distance. You wanted control, but you built isolation. Now you live in a palace of your own making. Every wall polished, every gate guarded, every weakness removed. But no one visits. And if they do, you can't let them stay, because their presence disrupts your precision. You crave connection, but only on your terms. You want someone to understand your silence, but you can't tolerate their noise. You've forgotten how to be seen without being studied. There's a strange dignity in this solitude. You've become a monument of mastery. But monuments don't move. They just stand there, admired by others, eroded by time. You realize that what you called power was, in part, a defense mechanism. You built your kingdom to never be hurt again. And now, you can't be healed either. Because to heal, you'd have to open. And to open, you'd have to feel. Your mind tells you that vulnerability is exposure. Your body tells you that it's starvation. You are feeding on control like it's oxygen, unaware that it's slowly suffocating the soul it protects. This is what power without emotion becomes. Maintenance. Endless maintenance. You are guarding something that no longer needs guarding. Every night, when the applause fades and the lights die, you sit in the throne of your own making and hear the faint echo of your humanity knocking on the door. You ignore it because it sounds weak, but it's not weakness, it's memory. The memory of what made you fight for this empire in the first place. The laughter, the hunger, the chaos. You killed all three, and with them you killed the spark. You must understand, the hollow throne isn't failure, it's transition. It's what happens when your strategy outgrows your soul. You have mastered the art of appearing unmoved, but now it's time to master the art of being alive again. You've proven you can survive anything. Now prove you can feel without breaking. Because if you can't, your empire will crumble in silence. Not from attack, but from emptiness. The true ruler is not the one who silences his emotions completely, but the one who allows them to serve him, not rule him. You are not meant to be stone, you are meant to be steel, firm, forged, and alive. The hollow throne will not destroy you. It will remind you that power is not the absence of emotion, but the command of it. You are feared because you are silent, but you will be remembered when your silence begins to speak, not through words, but through the return of warmth, measured and deliberate. The hollow throne isn't the end. It's the realization that control without connection is emptiness disguised as glory. You have built your kingdom. Now you must return to it, not as a ruler, but as a soul. You thought numbness was peace, because pain stopped visiting. You mistook quiet for clarity and silence for safety. But peace is not the absence of feeling, it is the mastery of it. You've stopped the chaos, yes, but you also stopped the pulse. There's no storm anymore, but there's also no wind. You are calm, but you are not alive. You look at the world with the same steady eyes, unmoved by praise, untouched by insult. Nothing can provoke you, and that's what terrifies you most. You wanted strength, and you found stillness. But this stillness feels like a tomb. The world still moves, but you remain frozen in the illusion that you've transcended, when in truth you've merely stopped participating. You were never meant to erase emotion, only to command it. That was the original intention, to lead your heart, not silence it. To become the conductor of your symphony, not the executioner of its musicians. But mastery has a seductive danger. It convinces you that peace is the same as control. It convinces you that if nothing moves you, nothing can harm you. But if nothing can harm you, nothing can reach you either. The illusion of peace is the softest prison ever built. You convince yourself that detachment is wisdom, that not reacting is power. You begin to call your emptiness enlightenment, but it isn't. It's withdrawal. You've left the battlefield, but also the feast. You've stopped bleeding, but also stopped breathing. You're watching life from behind glass, perfect vision, no participation. It's a subtle kind of decay. You wake up without dread, but also without desire. You go through the motions of your life with a precision that would make gods proud, efficient, consistent, dead. You confuse neutrality for maturity. You say things like, "I've outgrown emotion," when in truth, you've just buried it. You've replaced passion with prediction, connection with observation. You live like a scientist studying the ruins of your own humanity. There was a time when you burned, when failure hurt, when love thrilled, when loss made you fall to your knees and beg the heavens for meaning. That fire was chaotic, but it kept you human. It forced you to evolve. Pain was not punishment, it was the sculptor. Every scar was evidence that you were still in motion, but now you've turned marble. The sculptor's chisel no longer works on you. You call that strength, but strength that refuses transformation is no longer strength, it's stagnation. The illusion of peace makes you efficient, but it steals your edge. You become predictable, overly logical, and strangely hollow. You don't dream anymore, you plan. You don't feel love, you study it. You don't chase ambition, you execute it. You are perfectly balanced, and therefore perfectly static. The tragedy is that this looks admirable from the outside. They see your calm and call it enlightenment. They don't realize it's exhaustion in disguise. You've learned to mistake apathy for inner peace because it hurts less. You've stopped wanting because wanting implies risk. You've stopped caring because caring implies loss. You've stopped loving because love implies exposure. You think you've healed, but you've merely hidden. The walls you built to contain your emotions have now contained your life. You can't experience joy without surrender. You can't feel love without trust. You can't grow without uncertainty. But you've declared war on all three because each one reminds you of the chaos you escaped. You associate peace with control, but control was only ever meant to be a temporary refuge, not a permanent residence. You were meant to rebuild from it, not remain within it. Machiavelli once wrote that men rise by two paths, by virtue or by fortune, but both paths require motion. You have stopped moving. You're standing still in a life that looks serene but feels numb. You've climbed to the top of the mountain, only to realize the view doesn't change you. The illusion of peace fools you into believing you've transcended humanity, when you've merely outgrown your own reflection. The truth is this: emotion is not your enemy. Uncontrolled emotion is. Emotion itself is the current that drives creation, art, leadership, love, and even power. The men who rule without feeling don't rule for long. The women who seduce without emotion don't inspire devotion, only obedience. The world does not remember the stoic observer. It remembers the one who burned, but never let the fire consume him. You must learn the difference between calm and emptiness. Calm is when your emotions obey you. Emptiness is when they've abandoned you. You've mistaken one for the other, thinking you've mastered yourself when you've only muted yourself. You've reduced the volume so low that even your victories sound like whispers. True peace isn't quiet, it's steady. It's a controlled flame, not an extinguished one. It's the kind of composure that can smile through pain, not because it feels nothing, but because it feels deeply and remains unbroken. You've been taught to fear passion because it once betrayed you. But what betrayed you wasn't passion, it was your inability to command it. You blamed the fire, not the absence of a fireplace. So here you are, controlled, cold, and convinced it's peace. You've silenced your demons, but also your angels. You've learned to manage your shadows, but you've stopped dancing with them. You were meant to lead both, not banish one and worship the other. Real peace does not come from deleting emotions. It comes from understanding them so completely that they no longer own you. The illusion of peace flatters the ego but starves the soul. You become a scholar of stillness, a master of restraint, a ghost that doesn't realize it's dead. You tell yourself you're above the world, but you're just outside of it. You meditate not to connect, but to disappear. You work not to build, but to distract. You've made a masterpiece of control and forgotten to live inside it. The goal was never to escape emotion. It was to hold the fire without getting burned, to feel without drowning, to care without collapsing. The strongest man is not the one who never feels, it's the one who feels deeply, yet directs every emotion like a general commanding his army. His rage has purpose, his love has boundaries, his sorrow has dignity. That is peace, controlled warmth, not cold survival. The illusion of peace will tempt you to stay where you are, to remain numb and call it evolution. But it's a beautiful lie, because growth requires friction. You were not meant to glide through life like a shadow. You were meant to carve through it like a blade. The silence around you isn't calm, it's suffocation disguised as order. And soon, if you listen carefully, you'll hear something deep within you stirring again. A tremor in your chest, a flicker of longing, not weakness, awakening, the realization that numbness was never peace. It was a pause, a necessary stillness before the next storm, one you'll no longer fear, because this time you will control its fire. You haven't failed by feeling nothing. You've simply reached the midpoint of transformation, the valley between mastery and rebirth. You are not meant to stay here. The illusion of peace was your cocoon, not your home. The next stage is waiting, where calm meets passion, and you learn to live again without losing control. You have walked through silence long enough. The stillness that once protected you has begun to suffocate you. The calm that once gave you power now feels like exile. You were never meant to live without emotion, only to reign over it. This is where resurrection begins, the return of fire. It doesn't come in thunder. It begins as a whisper, the faint pulse beneath the armor you forgot you were wearing, the smallest flicker of warmth inside your chest that reminds you that you are still human. You thought you'd buried that part of yourself forever, but fire is immortal. It sleeps, it waits. It watches for the moment when control turns from strength to stagnation, and then it rises again. You've conquered detachment. You've mastered composure. You've built walls so high that no one can enter. But now, even you can't breathe inside them. You've realized that there is no life without movement, no control without current, no power without passion. The return of fire is the return of will, not chaos, but purpose burning clean. This is not about becoming reckless. It's about remembering that emotion is not your enemy. It is your weapon. The strong man does not kill his feelings, he forges them. His pain becomes fuel, his desire becomes direction, his love becomes discipline, his rage becomes command. Every flame that once threatened to consume him now answers to his signal. You must learn to feel again, not the way the weak do, scattered and enslaved by every impulse, but the way rulers do, with precision and intention. The strong man feels deeply, but selectively. He does not give his heart freely to chaos. He gives it only to purpose. He cries without crumbling, loves without losing control, and burns without burning out. Emotion is no longer a storm, it is a servant. The fire you feared was never your enemy, it was your mirror. It showed you what still mattered. Every time you suppressed it, you weakened your humanity. Every time you denied it, you denied your own pulse. The return of fire means learning to walk again through the world with both power and presence, to command the battlefield of life, not as a ghost, but as a god who remembers what it means to create. Machiavelli's warning was never against emotion. It was against emotional enslavement. He understood that men ruled by passion destroy themselves, but men without passion destroy the world around them. The balance is not silence, it is command. A ruler must feel deeply enough to understand, but remain distant enough to decide. The warmth must not burn the judgment, only illuminate it. You have been cold long enough. You know what emptiness feels like, how it numbs the victories, how it steals the meaning from achievement. You've seen what happens when discipline becomes distance. Now it's time to return to the fire, not to lose control, but to reclaim it. Because emotion, when mastered, is the source of charisma, creativity, and conviction. It is what separates those who exist from those who lead. The return of fire does not mean abandoning control. It means learning to use it as a frame for your flame. Like a swordsmith shaping molten metal, you must let heat and form coexist. Too much fire, and the blade shatters. Too much restraint, and it never takes shape. The art lies in balance. Passion bound by discipline. Emotion guided by logic. Heart welded to strategy. You are not meant to live as stone. You are meant to live as steel, forged by pressure, refined by flame, both strong and alive. Stone endures, but it does not move. Steel cuts, reflects, and evolves. That is what you are becoming. The death of emotion was the crucible. The return of fire is the forging. When you let emotion back in, the world changes color again. The gray tones of survival turn to gold. You begin to see beauty, not as distraction, but as nourishment. You feel your ambition awaken, not out of fear, but out of love. Love for creation, for progress, for mastery. You stop chasing validation and start building legacies. You stop proving your power and start embodying it. The cold man commands respect. The warm man commands loyalty. Respect creates distance. Loyalty builds empires. The men who change the world are not those who kill their emotions, but those who harness them so completely that every feeling becomes strategy. Their anger becomes justice. Their sorrow becomes wisdom. Their love becomes influence. They are fire in human form, dangerous, beautiful, controlled. You must not confuse sensitivity with weakness. It takes immense strength to feel and not falter, to let pain pass through you without poisoning you, to hold love without losing direction. The world will try to convince you that numbness is protection, but it's merely delay. The fire will come for you eventually, whether you welcome it or not. Better to master it now, while it still listens to your call. When the fire returns, you will notice something. You no longer fear being seen. You no longer hide behind composure. You speak not to dominate, but to direct. You act not to impress, but to move. You've replaced validation with vision. The silence remains, but it now carries warmth. The calm remains, but it now breathes life. You begin to understand that control and emotion were never opposites. They were partners, two halves of the same weapon. Control gives you form, emotion gives you force. A sword without edge is decoration. Edge without hilt is chaos. But together, they conquer. You are that weapon now, sharpened by stillness, ignited by feeling. And as you walk again through the world, people will notice. Your eyes will carry depth again, not wildness, but gravity. Your presence will command not through fear, but through energy. You will become magnetic, the kind of person whose calm hides fire and whose fire radiates control, the rarest kind of power. You are not dead inside. You are waiting to feel again, on your own terms. You are not broken. You are reawakening. You are returning to the balance nature intended, to the flame within the armor, to the soul behind the strategy. Control is power, but the man who can feel again, without breaking rules, everything,